Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Shellda Podcast. My name is Dan Shelley, a professional paintball photographer. And in this episode, I sit down with the professional paintball player, Kyle Spicka of AC Diesel and of the co-owner of Tigerwear. And in this episode, Kyle opens up about what it was like to go through all of the ups and downs of AC Diesel in the past few years of players coming, players going, his best friend leaving, his best friend coming back, as well as the reason why he's honestly kind of quiet on his podcast, the Spick Span Show. This is definitely an episode you don't want to miss, so let's jump right into it.
Photographer of the Year, let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shellda Photos.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Shellda Podcast, where today I am joined by, man, the list, so you got a huge list. Professional paintball player for AC Diesel, co-owner of Tigerwear, co-host of a podcast. Like, you've got a pretty awesome pedigree already. Have you, like, has that ever sunk in for you?
It does, and it doesn't. Like, I think I still, I know I'm still like the kid in myself that's like surprised to be here.
Yeah.
But also like looking for more. It's weird. It's like when I reflect back, I'm like, I always wanted like where I'm at right now, but then I'm like still thinking, you know, it's not enough, or there's more to get.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird like juxtaposition, I guess.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've touched on this on a few of mine where like I struggle with imposter syndrome a lot, and these past few years have just been like a dream come true for me in the paintball industry of, you know, the photos, the podcast, all the magazine stuff, and it's like it still doesn't feel real. You know, it's like, when is it actually going to feel real? Like that I deserve it. You know, it's just the wild thing.
Yeah.
So, well, before we jump into it, we've got a lot of great questions lined up. I do want to give a huge shout out to my two show sponsors. You know these guys obviously very well, but Hormesis, they've been on board since day one, and Alex and Oliver are just some of the nicest humans in paintball. You can literally walk up to them, and if you needed a t-shirt, like they would give you the shirt off their back. They're just so supportive for the paintball community. And then speaking of supportive people, Junior and Gina Brown of BFP Gear are just, again, some of the nicest humans in the world. So I'm a big family person. So to be supported by two companies that look at their customers and clients as essentially family members, like I couldn't have asked for a better fit. So it's so cool to be part of the family. So yeah, let's jump in. We were talking in the green room before this, that I just clicked. I had a funny story. We were messing around with our audio to get everything right. I had Ryan obviously on, I don't know, a month or two ago at this point. And you know, in your studio, you guys have that Blue Yeti microphone that like sometimes works, sometimes doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, he was like, hey, like, how does this sound? And I was like, well, can you sit a little closer? And so like, he was right on top of the microphone. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds good. And like, we dialed in some settings, and he was like, I hear myself through your computer, the Mac. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, well, you sound fine on my end. And he's like, well, I'll just live with it. And so we went on, you know, an hour and whatever minute show, sounded great, wrapped up. I dumped the file into Final Cut to like kind of do a little bit of cleanup. Every single time that he and I spoke over each other, there was like an echo, like a reverb. And I had to like literally edit every single word of that show. It took forever.
No.
Yeah.
I would have been like, Ryan, you're coming back on because I think this is your fault.
It was just, I don't even know. I don't think I told him that yet. Obviously I'll see him next week, but yeah, it's just so funny because you guys get so much flack for like your audio and your setup, and here I am the one that messed it up for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild.
Oh, man.
Well, let's talk about some on the field questions first. You know, it's been quite a crazy few years for you and Diesel. You guys have gone through just massive changes where, you know, it seems like year after year there's just another piece that either gets added or changed. Talk to me about like what goes in that decision for you to stay with the team throughout all of that.
So Yeah, I guess it's hard because there's like numerous factors, I guess, um, but I can elaborate on, I guess, I'll touch on all of them. One, I've kind of, as of like after, I left Dynasty in 2017, 2018. Yeah, I think 2018, 2019 was with Ironman. So from there, going to Ironman, and then Impact after, and then Latin Saints, and then back to Dynasty. Part of the decision was to like not keep doing that. And I don't know if it was like, impartial, maybe that is like influence from like the community.
Yeah.
That like maybe I'm like thinking about that a little bit too, but also, for just being like checking my own ego, like why don't you, Kyle? This is me talking to myself. Like, why don't you stay with and try to make not like take the easy route in a sense, like Ironman was a difficult challenge for me. I would say that was probably like one of the hardest in my, after going to Dynasty in 2013, going to Ironman those 2 years where we really struggled. That was probably the hardest. And after that, going like to established teams with Impact and then Latin Saints and then back to Dynasty. I was kind of like, let me like stick this out and know my, like, see if I can really, make a change with myself. And that was kind of a big part of my decision to like stick it out through this whole time. And then also like, part of it too is obviously being, compensated for all of my time spent in this career choice of playing paintball. And, sure. Huge thanks to Mark, which I think, for a while, like a lot of the time there and influence of like maybe coaches and just like different pros that we had in there. I think that, Mark and I maybe just didn't have like a lot of like trust built up that I truthfully, maybe he didn't think I was there maybe for the right reasons, that I was like maybe just trying to collect money. But like, you can ask, most people that are familiar with who I am, just genuinely, that know like whatever I'm doing, like I'm there, whatever team I'm with, like you have all of me completely. Yeah. But I don't know if like that, Mark and I, it took a very long time for us to get to that, like break that seal of understanding. And I don't know if it was influence from other people that we had there, or, whatever it was. But I think that was like something that I'm glad I fought through, because Mark fought a lot for like what he thought, and I fought a lot for what I thought, even to the point like it was, twice, one before last season started, and then once in the middle of the year, which probably like saw some rumors about, which was like Kyle might be getting cut. And a lot of it was because like I was standing up for like what I believe in, which actually was like, it was not selfish at all. It wasn't for me. It was for the team. Like I wanted the team to have success, which, we can go into as we along this podcast of like where, the coaching plays a role in that too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of touches like 75% of it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me some details there, because I think as you're explaining that, it sounds exactly like a relationship, whether it's with a girlfriend or wife or boyfriend, whatever it is, you have that push and pull at first until like you kind of break that seal and like someone opens up and becomes vulnerable. And then like the other person's like, oh, okay, like you're trying to like go deeper. I'll try to go deeper. And like that just unlocks something for whatever that relationship is. And it sounds like it took you guys a while to kind of pop that, to get to that next level for that connection.
Yeah, and we're still, every day, working at that. I mean, it was like we just came back from practice this weekend, last night, and I remember on Friday night we all landed kind of early, and we got back to the hotel. Mark and Ice picked us up, and it was me, Mouse, and Lackey. And when we got back to the hotel, Mouse and I were like, we want to go eat. I wrote in our group chat, I was like, does anyone want to go eat? Actually, I didn't say that. I said, can we borrow a car, or does anyone want to eat? And then Jesse's like, I got you, I'll take you. And as me, Jesse Stevens, and Mouse are walking out of the hotel, Mark happened to be outside, and then it's like, dang, you guys didn't. He's like, well, I wanted to eat. You guys didn't hit me up. I was like, I put it in the group chat, like, does anyone have a car? And then we all like, he just kind of like walked away, and then Mouse looked at me like, is he upset? And then I think like, in the last 2 years, maybe we would have like gotten the car, and then that would have, those kind of things, they eat me for like,
Faster.
I don't know, not even just that weekend and the next weekend, like weeks. And I've gotten to a point now to like with Mark, so it was funny, I was on the phone with my girlfriend when this happened, and I was like, I gotta call you back. So I just went to talk to Mark, and I was like, hey, I'm sorry, like if we didn't. He's like, I was fucking kidding. I'm like, no, I'm not hungry, I'm going to sleep. And I was like, oh, okay. So to get to that point where like, because I'm kind of like, even though I'm can be a little open, that's like kind of why sometimes I'm quiet on the show, or quiet with people I don't really know. I'm actually really, really outgoing. Yeah. But if I don't really like, if I can't, if we don't have like a lot of like fluid conversation, it's hard for me to, I guess, articulate in a nice way, or I don't know. I just try to avoid some awkward stuff, and Mark and I are breaching that, and I'm able to like, it's finally like this level of trust between each other that is like allowed me to like open up and ask questions that could potentially like maybe piss before. I'll be like, oh, this is gonna piss him off, but it doesn't really, which has been really cool.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And for me, I just, whether they accept it or not, I just submitted an article to the Great American Paintball magazine about imposter syndrome, because like I struggle with it, and I still do to this day. But you said something there that showed growth in you, where if this happened, a few years ago, like that would have festered, right? And like this person was joking, and that would have just ruined your practice, or would have ruined your event, and you would have thought there was something there, and that would have created, I'm sure, anxiety. And so I hope you see that growth in you, that you're able to have that really tough conversation.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I see it there, and I know I have to like keep forcing it, and I do try to do it. And it's funny because like Mouse is really good at it, and like our friendship is so strong because like we went through so many iterations of our friendship, and like honesty, and like mean, and like almost to the point of like hating each other, and as business partners, everything. And like there's a lot of things that he could maybe like lack on with Tigerwear, but like I don't. It's really hard for me, and I think like it's funny, like he's one of the first people that I think I've like unconditionally like fully accepted as like, if you want to be like do whatever you want or say stuff and it's like piss me off, like I'm still like you're my fucking best friend, regardless. I'm gonna still tell you like, hey, that's I'm disappointed, like you need to like work harder, whatever, but he also like teaches me a lot of discipline that I don't have, so it's like a good back and forth. There's a point that I was gonna make there with that, but yeah, I do like. There's a lot of things that I've like realized that I need to like push myself more, and that's definitely one area that it's taken 2 years to get to that point with like my communication with Mark.
Yeah.
But even with knowing that, it's not like it's a switch for all these other areas where I probably should speak up like that. And I don't. And I don't know, like, I might get too excited or just spew stuff out that's like not like how I speak, when I'm putting like a thoughtful idea. So.
Yeah, man, thank you so much for opening up and being vulnerable like this. People are going to resonate with that so much, right? Because I think you're in such a unique spot from most other pros outside of like a handful of people where you're in the public view on a weekly basis, right? Like people see you on the show, they see you, obviously every few months at the events. And so to like watch your journey throughout that has been incredible. Like you can see where your maturity has gone. You can see like how you change as a person. Before we dive a little bit further into that, I do have another question or two just about the team. With all the stuff that went on with like Mouse this year, like I knew how close you guys were. And so my first thought was like, man, how does this affect Kyle? Like not from like a playing perspective, like how does this affect you as a person? You're losing your potential best friend to a different team. Talk to me what that's like when you hear that those rumors start up and when you inevitably hear from the, either him or someone else that he's leaving, obviously he's back, but like, what do you go through with that?
I'm trying to think of like the different dimensions here. So one, it, as well as like, I do know Mouse. There's a part of Mouse that always like, regardless of it, if it's just me, and I know it's even more so like the rest of the world, like he's he's his own like weird genius in a way that like, and his superpower is I don't think like secrecy is like the good word, but like we're really opposite. Is I like look for decisions by talking to everyone. I'll talk to Greenspan. I'll talk to like Kenny Rosenberg, who works for HK, to like his computer genius. Like I'll talk to Mouse. I'll talk to Rainey, who likes to gamble. Like I'll talk to Marcella. I'll talk to all these people to try to like hear all these different opinions, and then help me like formulate mine. Which who knows if that's good or bad. I'm not.
It's your style.
I have no like. Yeah, I have no. Mouse does a good job of like really just like being introspective and figuring out the decision by himself in a sense. And so I give him that time. If he's being like, and what happened around that when that was going on is that he kind of went pretty quiet. And so that was my first like this is probably happening, because I kind of heard like some rumors, and Marcelo I guess was quiet with Greenspan. And so I kind of assumed, and yeah, we had went through a rough 2 years with the team, and Malice is someone that's like that. He's like, I need to win. Like that's like feeding him, and so for him to switch to this like, how can I bring, work on something, and realize that like that could winning with Diesel, which we were so close, could be like more fulfilling than just winning with another team. I think that that was part of it. I'm kind of getting off topic here, but like that went quiet. And actually, Mouse and I talk like almost every single day, and it's funny because he only lives an hour from me, and we don't even really like hang out. We talk like every day, and he's like, it's far away. And I've gone up there, and I'm like, dude, it's not that far away. But so he kind of like I guess, he went quiet, and I figured it was probably happening. And then he ended up calling me and he told me, and I was, I understood, like, because it was hard. And what kind of like, just to be honest, for everyone out there, is like, I kind of put myself into a weird spot with last year, foreseeing that like things were incorrect on the back end with coaching and just logistics and operations and mindset and strategy, and just overall like vibe, whatever, like as woo woo as that is, I'm like very sensitive to that and intuitive to like that. And so I knew that no matter like if I went out and played my best paintball and shoot, 3 or 4 people, if we're not strategically doing the right things and like the bond isn't in sync, then it won't matter. And so I decided to like work on that from like a selfless standpoint, even though that would like, at the end of our 2-year contract, it doesn't look good for me because I wasn't playing a lot. And when I did, I was like, come in like, as a 6th man or 7th man. And that's not, how that typically goes. Like, yeah, occasionally you'll stand out, but for the team. And then so as the 2-year contract ends, I don't have a lot of like, I guess like leverage in a sense, or not. I don't want to say leverage, but like as teams are thinking about, who they want to pick up or whatnot, like I'm not, I didn't have, a great year in a sense, but I had a great year for something that's not seen to the general public, and like for myself and for, the guy, for our team, they understood.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like going off in a tangent here, so I'm kind of losing it, but
No, this is great. It's like what you're describing. The way I visualize that is, I don't know if you watch football or NFL or not, but like when you have a quarterback who gets, he goes up the line of scrimmage and like he has that like hot call and he gets a lot of offside penalties.
yes,
That those things could change games, but you don't see that in a stat book. You don't see that, hey, this guy had the team jumped offside 5 or 6 times and that led to game-winning drives. Like you don't ever hear anybody talk about that stuff. It's the unwritten things that like if you're in the know in the team, that stuff. And it sounds like that's
totally
exactly what you're working on.
Yeah, and I guess too. So when Mouse, it's coming back to me now.
There you go.
But when Mouse told me that, I was like, of course I was bummed out. Like I was super bummed out, but I respect the decision. I understood, and there was probably like 4 or 5 days where I was like, this like that's my good friend, like, and
Yeah.
we were kind of like, we kind of had this like continuation of, I guess looking at like, Oliver and Ryan and Alex and Yoshing, that we had kind of started to like build a bond between myself, Mouse and J-Rab, and we were like working on putting that together, and coming to Diesel to help bring everyone up and create something new. And then, the piece with J-Rab kind of faded out, and then, losing then Mouse going, it wasn't so like, I'm pretty like understanding that like nothing in life is for sure. Like I used to be like this, where I had like these expectations that like something is going to be the way that I think it is, and like my good friends or family or whatever is never going to like do something that I didn't want. But like, that's, come on, like we all know that is not the way I think. So I'm like, all right, so what's the next, like, what do I do now? Like, how do I make this better? Like, I cannot, yeah, I'll feel it for a little bit and feel like some like mundaneness. And also, and I said this, I think, with, I believe with Maddie, I did on Go Sports, but like those also too are some of my best friends with Marcelo and Tyler, Dalton, like Brandon Cornell. I've been like in Dalton's wedding, like I've been Brandon Cornell's wedding. Like we're all within a year of each other. So like that was something I was like, not only that, I like kind of lose my best friend, but like they all get to be together and I'm, not part of it, and not like I'm like gonna reach out and be like, hey, can I come? Like I'm like,
It's
nah,
like a jealousy thing a little bit.
Yeah. And that, so with all of that, like I think again, and after maybe 3 or 4 days of feeling that, I was like, all right, like get back to work. Like what am I gonna do? This is like a chance to separate myself and like, I don't want to go too much into this, but Oliver has probably been like more influential on my life than my parents.
It's, you say that, and I actually would put money on, I think there's a lot of people in paintball who would probably say the same thing. Like, yeah. I had him on recently, and man, he went into like some deep stuff of just things that changed his life. And when I started the whole photography journey a few years ago, it was my first World Cup. Like, I had the Dynasty book that came out, Dynasty 1. It was like the perfect story for me as a fan and all this coming up. My mom passed away like 2 weeks before that, and it literally changed my life. Since then I've kind of opened up like what you're talking about, or like I'm more vulnerable with people, and I didn't know why, but like Oliver, like with just perfect ease, he was like, oh, that's called whatever it is. He's like, when you have a traumatic experience, like your life changes and like something in your brain changes. And I'm like, my parents never taught me that stuff, so like Oliver's helped change my life too. It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. So that happens. And then when Mouse is kind of like, the talks happen of him like potentially coming back, I'm still like, after 4 days, Mouse and I started talking. I was like, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm upset, but I'm like, I completely understand. And there was like a few weeks before that even came to fruition of the potential of him coming back. We were all practicing together at our local field with all our, like the SoCal pro guys. Everything's fine. And I'm like, I always like figure out a plan. It takes me a lot longer to do things. And like, that's why I'm like, everyone always jokes, like I'm always late, even like for everyone that's there, like we scheduled this an hour before we actually came on, but I like to like, it does take me a little bit longer to do things, but that's not just because like, I think Ryan too thinks it comes out of like a laziness sense, but it comes from more of like, I want to be so prepared. Like on my team, I'm like the last person to be downstairs or everything, but it's because like I really want to like make sure that I have thought through like all different potential like outcomes, even if on a simple standpoint, as far as like getting somewhere and like making sure I'm prepared to like I think about all the scenarios, and I think that's kind of what like holds me up, and I've embraced it a little bit. So in the sense that like, yeah, I'm a little bit like, I might be a little bit behind, but I'm going to beat you in the long run.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I go through the same thing. And I don't think I've realized it literally until a few weeks ago. And I was having a conversation with my wife, and she's doing a lot of interpersonal work right now. And it's helped me like really look inside too. And every single detail, like I think through like, okay, we're going to Tampa, right? Like I'll just pick a scenario and okay, what does the parking garage look like? Like, I'll go to Google Maps, I'll zoom down to it and like, all right, how do I get there? Is there a parking meter? And like I think through
Yeah.
every single thing. And what I discovered is I was worried about things going wrong. And I'm a protector by nature. And like if I can't protect in that situation, that's when I'm outside of my comfort zone. And so like that just kind of snowballs into everywhere. Are you like that too, I would assume?
Yeah. I mean, I did it like a few times even today. Like I was part of what like took me a little time too is I just wanted to go, and I could have done it after the podcast, but like I wanted to go to the gym. I wasn't working out today because we had 3 days of practice, but I wanted to go get in the cold plunge and do a sauna just for me mentally before we did this. And so I'm like getting stuff ready and I'm like putting together like clothes and stuff. I was like, should I eat first? Should I not? I'm like, all right, just go. And I've gotten better about like, I don't need to make sure like everything is perfect. And, so I just like set myself and I ended up fine. My like AirPods were dead, so I had no music. And I was like, usually that would like bug me, but I've gotten a little bit better about that. And yeah, I think I'm definitely like that, and I've embraced it. But I know that like maybe sometimes that it like will affect me, and I learn from people like Greenspan is a great teacher for me. Like one of the things like, and he could attest to this. Like I do like to surf, and I'm pretty good actually at surfing, but I will only surf like once a year or something. But I don't like, I think about like going surfing, like for him, he's like, oh, I can just go jump in the water and it'll take for me to leave the house, go and jump in the water, come back for is like an hour 15. And in my mind, I'm like, that's 3 hours. Cause I'm like, I have to like make sure I'm prepared to go surfing. We go surfing and I come back and then I have to like, get warmed up because the water was cold.
Shower,
And then
all
I'm
of
like,
it,
yeah. And then I'm just like, all right, that's 3 hours. And in his mind, it's like an hour and a half. And he can have a phone call on the way there and on the way back. And I do like, I wish I had a little bit more of that in me.
Same. Like recently, like I was mentioning, I just started to kind of get rid of that a little bit, where like I don't have to think about every detail. And what I noticed is when I was going through all of that extra planning and whatnot, like that was anxiety. Like that just created anxiousness in me of like, I need to know all this information. And if I don't, it's not going to go well. And it would just snowball. And so when I started to, like you mentioned, peel back a little bit, like I saw that anxiety kind of go down a little bit. So I'll be anxious to see like, well, there I said anxious. I'll be curious to see as you go through this, like if you notice, it sounds like it's anxiety, if that kind of simmers down a little bit for you.
Well, this is actually, I have a really great story actually that I don't think many people know that I'll share that I'm glad you brought up. I was just writing another thing down here that I wanted to share at the end, but
appreciate it.
So this is another thing where I'd like attribute so much to what Oliver, like the friendship that we have and what Oliver is like kind of taught me is, so I moved out of, and it was just me and my mom growing up. My dad and mom separated when I was 2, so I know him kind of, but we don't have a relationship. So it's just me and my mom, and we were like, low middle class, didn't really have a lot. So at 18, I moved away to pursue this whole paintball thing, and I had really bad anxiety as I think as I started to come into adulthood, like around 16, 18, 19, 20 years old, and then 21. And then when I first realized that I wasn't like I was taking medication or anything, but when I first realized it was bad is when I started to travel far by myself. Like when I started to get on European teams in 2010, 2011, which I was 20, 21. I'd get this like mix of like homesickness and feeling like kind of, as I'm talking about this, going into like what we're saying of like not having full control of things would like really wear on me. And then I talked to my doctor about it. He's like, and I don't really think that this is, and this is a whole separate conversation. It kind of pisses me off, but like, oh, you probably just need Xanax. And I'm like, okay. So I don't know how this like lined up. I don't know if it was like, and then at this point, I think this was like in 2013 when I was on Dynasty. And I did play a year when I first got to pro with Oliver, but he was kind of like already in the mindset of leaving the Ironman.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I like actually got to know Oliver until 2013 when I joined Dynasty. And I don't know, I think 2013. So I guess it was like, I was 23 years old when I got a doctor was like, maybe you should take Xanax to cope with this anxiety. And I don't know if it was this conversation I had with Oliver first, or if it was this moment that I experienced with it. But like, I remember like having one of those, like, I wouldn't say like quite level of like panic attack, but it was close to it. A feeling of like, I have no control, like what's going on? Like, not that like I'm going to die, but just like your brain just starts going like, and I want to go off on the side note. I read something the other day that was pretty cool that was talking about like, it's interesting that, how our minds work is that like, you're so present in with what's going on, like say this conversation right here, but you can also recollect like something that happened to you like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. You can think about something with your like cumulative like understanding of the world and how things work, and think about like what things might look like in the future in 10 years, or remember people's name. Your brain can go like so far, but you're
so
able
quick
to like,
too.
So quick, but you can keep it, you're keeping it here. So I think I would like categorize like a panic attack as like, you're all of a sudden like doing those things too much at once, and it's like super overwhelming. But as like side note, so I took Xanax. Like one time I had anxiety, and then it went away. And then literally, I'm not even joking about this, the next time I started to have anxiety, I knew I had that like escape route, and it instantly went away. I didn't have to take it. And
wow.
I was like, so like knowing I had like an escape route right there, my brain instantly like stopped, and I was like, and I never needed it again. I've never had anxiety since then.
Wow.
Which is like so bizarre. And like, is it even like, I told the doctor like, hey, this is like fucking groundbreaking. And he was kind of like, he was like, oh, that's good. I'm glad for you. And I'm like, dude, what? Like, you just prescribed it to me like that. And then like, you don't even think this is like cool. Like what, and that's just one piece of it. Like what Oliver told me too, is like, when people ask me like, what's like the best advice that you've ever gotten? Is it like all these like, so you have positive emotions of like happiness, joy, list goes on. I guess that encompasses a lot of them, but like, you have on the other side, you have like loneliness, anger, sadness, resent, guilt, all these different feelings of emotion. And what he told me is like, maybe, you and anxiety, like you need those in order to like understand and value the happiness and the fulfillment and like feeling good and joy. Because if you felt like that all the time, it would just be like, I know everyone in here has experienced getting a new car, and it feels awesome for the first month or two, and then you're just like, oh, it's my, like that is what it is, so like you kind of, those are like shitty feelings, but you need those. It's actually good to have those, and good to have like the grind and the fight and that part of the grit and journey to like appreciate the happiness. So if you like kind of like, it's hard, like it's easier said than done, but like if you can find a way to like appreciate those moments, like if you were happy all the time and having like you would become on a robot autopilot and everything would kind of be boring because you wouldn't
Yeah,
know how
exactly.
like to differentiate the two.
You wouldn't be able
So and
to
that was
experience the highs and the lows and all of it. And that's part of where those feelings come through.
yeah. You need that
I
part of the roller coaster, you know?
Yeah, it's part of the journey, like,
Yeah.
and Oliver
You
Oliver
go
talks
up
about
and
it.
then yeah.
Yeah, he talks about it in his podcast a few weeks ago, where he was like, when I hit the top, he's like, winning just, it was boring. Like I've done it all. Like I needed something else different.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, there's a song I heard within the last year or two, and like it hit me in my core. And the lyrics go, "Thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain." And it kind of goes in touch with what Oliver is saying, is like you have to accept all of those emotions. You've got to be thankful for those high happy days. You got to be thankful for those sad low days, because they all work together.
Yeah.
They're all a part of it.
That
So
polarity. I've
yeah,
like been reading about like, looking at it from a standpoint of like for me, I'm like, I love light. I like even, the daylight savings time is coming back
yeah,
on the Sunday of the event. And I'm like, that's Christmas for me.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, because I feed off light.
Hmm.
And, the, the, the looking at it, like I've had this perspective over like the last year or two that like those negative things are not that like it's something new. It's just like the absence, like when it's dark, it's just like the absence of the sun. It's not that feeling. So like
Yeah,
the negative things are just they're not stronger. They're actually the same. The darkness and the light is kind of the same. It has the same power. And so like looking at something when you feel like a ton of despair or anger or loneliness, whatever, like how powerful it is, like, and I talk about this too with like a couple you know people in my life, and even teammates that I've tried to like help spread like this wisdom with, that like don't look at it like that feeling, that negative feeling, as like it's so overwhelming. Look at like how fucking powerful it is, and know that like that power is still on the other side of this.
yeah,
Like it's going to also feel like that good. Like
yeah,
you can have that energy on the other side if that's in you. Like if you're just kind of like stale and mundane and going through the motions, like you're not going to have either side of it. You'll just be like even keel. But if you have that really hard side, if you just kind of like associate that with like your total being and who you are, yeah, it's going to be hard. But once you unlock that, like, oh shit, I'm powerful,
yeah,
then the other side becomes unlocked.
yeah,
And then you have
totally.
a lot more than most people, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, life, going through life is just like unlocking different parts of you. You're like leveling up on your journey. And like I touched on it earlier, and I want to circle back to it. I've seen that from you, because I've watched the Spick and Span show literally from day one, like when you guys were doing the old eating challenges and all the crazy stuff. And I've seen you mature and grow. And I noticed it from you a lot. Like when I'm watching you at events, is you're very quiet, and when you speak, like people listen. And so I thought and assumed that was just you being like really humble and taking in the moment. Is that true or accurate, or is that something else?
It is like, I don't want to, I don't even like know what to categorize it is. Like, I guess, we can call it being humble. Like, um, we're kind of, to me, and I think this is like sometimes hard, for me to like, it takes me a little bit to kind of like get my point across, and I can kind of be long-winded. Like my semi-pro team TJ Bastards that I coach, they realize this, because sometimes I can see when I'm like being long-winded, or like I don't know exactly like how to put the words together to get my point across. So the only way I can do that is like continue to speak. And it's because like, to me, I think and this is why I try to like do everything I can to educate myself. We're limited to like the vocabulary that we know. So like even all these feelings that we're talking about, or emotions, like you're just like, you might feel a certain way, but the only way that you can describe it is by these like 20 words of describing emotions of it's not quite sadness, but it's not quite anger, it's not quite like despair. And so I think for me, I'm careful and I'm quiet, because I think a lot of things, like there is a contradiction to what I might say. And so I don't want, like, there is something to like speaking with confidence, but I don't really like prefer to speak with confidence as it like, what I'm saying is like the truth, like is the absolute truth, because it might not be, so I'm it's not that I'm like, my quietness can be like confused, I guess, in that I just don't want to, say something that is absolute when it's not, like even the way that I this is kind of like going on the side thing, but I think Jason Trozen is doing such an incredible job with the way these field layouts are designed. And even this one that we're about to play is like, as long as it's, set up in the intricate way that he's made it, it's literally like, I don't know even how many people are going to like realize this, but it's like a fucking masterpiece. Like it's so intricate and it's so hard, and that is one area where I have like a lot of confidence, like how a lot of these guys, like a Greenspan, Mouse, Archie, Marcelo, these guys are like, I'm the best player on the field. Like, I think I'm the best person at innovating and like dissecting and understanding strategy. And this is a field where I'm having trouble like understanding all like the multi layers of how this is designed and built. And so I'm not going to be able to like come out completely and say like, this is what we have to do, because it's a cool thing with like the field, the way that the fields are designed in the game of paintball is going on, where it's kind of like, it's physical chess, but the rules change every time, in a sense. Like, it'd be like we're playing the chessboard, but every time you start, the pieces are in different spots. It's kind of like what we're dealing with paintball. And so you can't, like, there's no definites. And I think that translates to life and, as far as my communication goes. And I'm quiet because I don't want to give people like a false sense of what's right, because I don't know for sure, like a lot of people like will speak with confidence, but you could be selling a lie, whether you're conscious of it or unconscious of it. Like when you have influence, like I think that you also need to be careful. And it does like, I wish I was like quicker to come to these thoughts. And I think as I gain, it honestly, it kind of sucks, because as I gain more wisdom and I gain more knowledge, I become more quiet.
You slow down, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, I don't want to say this as a truth, because it's like, it might not necessarily be so.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense, right? Like what you said earlier about the dynamic with you and Mouse with Tigerwear, where sometimes you're the go-getter and sometimes he's not so much or whatever it is. Like it's that give and take, right? And like you need both of that push and pull to have that dynamic. And when you watch different podcasts or TED Talks from like these powerful and successful CEOs, they crave exactly what you're talking about, where they want to be in a room with other people that are okay with bringing in opinions and they just sit back and listen. It's like the mind that you have is what makes a lot of successful people, where they are actually open to listening and taking in all that data before they make an educated decision or put their stamp on whatever it is. So give yourself a little more credit there. Like you're doing some good things.
No, I definitely do.
What is it like being on the show with Ryan? Because you guys are like literally polar opposites, right? Like he is super outgoing, and obviously, you're more methodical. What's that experience like?
It's funny, and I've talked to like Alex a couple of times about this. Like, our show is interesting into like from a back end side of things. Of like, I don't think that either one of us could continue and do this show without the other. Like, Ryan's like so quick, so clever, so intelligent. He can like fire off. He's not going to leave like, a void of silence, which you need on a show. And for me, like if I was solo, I would be freaking out. Like I'd be like, shit, it's like I'm panic mode. I don't know what to talk about, blah, blah, blah. And so he's like really good off the cuff. When I put like a lot of time and thought into what I'm doing or what I'm creating, whether it's like I did like a 3-minute video for our 200 show, and Ryan's like, how the fuck did you do this? And I was like, I worked for 2 days, like 2 hours of sleep each night on this,
and your passion came through it. It was incredible.
Yeah, but like we do the show every week, so I can't do that every week, but like if I have some time, and so like that is like where our show is kind of interesting, like where I'll get quiet, because like sometimes I'm like, I want to talk about, and like this even like can hurt my just even like in my outside life, and like even like dating relationships, but also like friendship relationships, is that like I don't like, I can have like surface layer conversation, but also like I don't really love it, and I don't like entertaining it. Like I can't. So for me, when it's just like, one thing that I've said is like I all these like talks with Paintball of like, what can we do to be better? Or this should be done, or that should be done, or like we need to do this, or we do that. It's like, I'm like, just okay, we'll do, then fucking you then do it. But like, can we stop? Like it's just like a huge waste of energy. Like, go do something else, or like just enjoy what we have. I agree. There's probably changes that need to be made, but we don't like need to keep dwelling on it, because it's like just sending all this like. So when we have like, there's certain times we do that, and I know that like these conversations need to be had, but I guess for me, like I don't want to be involved in them as much unless it's like going to be actually like implemented. And I'm not saying that I know how to. I honestly, I probably like I don't. But that's also why I'm not going to like complain.
Sure.
Because I think there's a lot of ways to do different things. So, but I guess like, it's an interesting part of our show too, because like we definitely like, like you said, are complete polar opposites, and I like to, when like Ryan's out of town sometimes and I'm like in control of the show, because we can. I think there was one time when like Oliver was there, or like Damien was there, Alex was there, and Ryan was like far away, and I was in control. Ryan was trying to say something like, "This is not your show today," like, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Ryan is a beast. Like, there's no, he's so consistent. He's like, I wish I could like get 10% more for myself of like what he has as far as consistency and just being like, I'm going to get like, so the way his personality is actually a great translation of like how he plays the game, is that he doesn't have a certain position. He is going to do what needs to get done.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at everything from like a master plan, and I'm going to put all the pieces together. He's just like, I'm just going to go do it, get it. Like, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to go handle it myself, which is really cool to see. And I think that's like kind of what translates into our show. And, I think that like sometimes we can get on each other, like, and I was even talking to Mouse about this weekend. I was like, yeah, sometimes we have like shows that might seem kind of boring or mundane, and people are like, that wasn't great. But we've also like only missed like 4 shows in the last like 3 years.
Yeah. The
4
consistency
weeks.
is crazy.
And that's hard to do. Like, yeah. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. When I look at you two, you're the planner, it seems like, right? Where you're like, hey, let's look at everything and take all the factors in here. And Ryan's the executor. Like, the idea comes and he just runs with it. There was when it was kind of announced about the whole JT partnership with like me, him, and Thomas and Matt being part of that like elite, group that we have, where we've got some like streetwear coming out and whatnot.
Yeah.
I got a message from Ryan the next day. He was like, hey, do you have this camera? Do you have this backdrop? And I'm like, yes, no. He's like, cool. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go buy like this banner. And like, he just went after it on his own. He's like, so like, that's his mind is, and now we're doing stuff in Tampa where I think he's going to have like a little private booth set up, and we're going to take like studio pictures that Ryan built or is building. It's crazy. And so like when he has an idea, he just runs with it.
Yeah.
So let's
that makes sense.
Yeah, let's keep the conversation going off the field, right? Because we started on the field and now we're stepping further away off the field. Talk to me about what you do Monday through Friday, because I think, if I recall, a few years ago you had worked at Nordstrom's for a while. Is that right?
Yeah.
And the reason I ask is like, it seems like there's always been some type of pull, or you've had a gravitation towards like fashion and clothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I worked, so I moved out here. I think I started at Nordstrom in 2010, 11 area. And it wasn't until I started like getting more established in paintball with coaching and, doing our show and getting compensated for playing. And then with the Tigerwear stuff, that I was like, I can do, I don't need to work there, which is actually, in hindsight, like I loved that job. I worked there for 10 years. Like I still like, if I didn't have one of these ways to earn compensation, I'd probably go back and work there because of just like the experience and the like social environment. It was really, really cool, and I liked it. But yeah, it definitely, like, that was a main factor of what kind of like pushed me, because I had a brand like a while back. I don't even want to say a brand, like a hobby project, something called Lyle Karen, which was like some clothing I did back in the day. And that kind of like started. So I got a good idea of what I wanted to do. And then also what Nordstrom really like instilled in me was not necessarily like, fashion. It was a combination and a blend of fashion and experience. Because like, and I I look at that now, and this is like, it's really hard for like, and Ryan sometimes like, do you want to talk about like your job or like be enthusiastic about like selling the products? Like I'm not like the best salesman, but I
Sure.
can connect with you, whoever it is, um, on a level that probably maybe nobody else has in your
Yeah.
life, which attribute to like, like what Oliver has taught me, you
Yeah.
know, like that feeling that I want to be able to unlock something or give you some wisdom that will carry you forever. And that's kind of like what I learned with Nordstrom. Obviously, like the fashion side, like came into it, and it is like an avenue. But it's also like a big part of that was like ex like experience and your freedom to be yourself. It was not like a corporate environment. So like your
Expression.
freedom, yeah, exactly. You took the words
Yeah.
out of my mouth. Like expression, fashion, just like a root, and like that's kind of like too with Tigerwear, but I don't know how, and I like this is something I'm still working on, because for me I see Tigerwear as like art, music, teaching, uh, clothing, um, and just like overall like a softer, more like understanding. I don't want to say softer, but like this, like I think a lot of people feel so overwhelmed right now, um, with anxiety or whatnot. Or like we live in such a competitive environment right now that it's like you can't. It's hard to even take a vacation because other people were working, which was
Yeah.
cool. Like about those like that one point during COVID for like 3 or 4 weeks where everyone they were like, you know what, everything shut down. I always like reflect on that because that was cool because everyone was on vacation at the same time. So you
Yeah.
didn't have to worry about like, well, if I'm not working, someone else is. And that's
Yeah.
the world that we live in right now. Um, and I like anybody can make the clothes that I like. You could take like look at this hat and then you could
Yeah.
just send it to whoever and be like, can you just make this hat? You can make the same thing. Like
Yeah.
you don't even have to buy it from me or from Tigerwear. But what I like trying to express that I think is something that's going to be, a long time is that you're like the brands that you like, especially like, some of the smaller brands and the mom and pops, like, I don't want to say mom and pops. I don't really like that reference, but like, like a Hormesis or us or um, some of these brands that are not like a conglomerate is that you're you're supporting them so that their job can be to procure um, not just clothes but like figuring out things to like show you and teach you through videos and media and content and um, clothing, whatever like avenue is like your form of art. You are helping them so that
Yeah.
they can continue to procure their creative side because what like the world is right now is like it doesn't really cater to like the poets and the creatives. Like it caters to like getting stuff done, sales and
Yeah.
business, and like nothing to take away because I think this is a very important job with like engineers and medical fields. Like we need those, but we also do need like the creatives to keep like pushing the bounds of thinking and understanding and otherwise I think life is kind of can get a little boring if we just say in the same way. But I think you're supporting, you're buying from these brands, and I always looked at it like this. When I worked in fashion, it wasn't necessarily, oh, I like the way this shirt looked or whatever. It was more so like I know what that like what that brand, what they care about, like what their expression is, how they show like their creativity. Like a good, I mean, it's kind of a side note. I wrote it down. Like, I'm sure you saw like that video Fava put out today.
Man,
It's like
unreal.
so, yeah. It's like so, like Fava doesn't put out a lot of stuff, like, but when he does, and that's kind of like I resonate with that because like I work like that in a way too, where it's like you want it to really like hit, and you want it to like you watch that video. Like I want to make stuff and make products, and even when I was like doing a little bit of video editing, so that when you watch it, you're like, whoa, like it change, like regardless of the shots or the editing, whatever, like it changes how you feel in the moment. Is important. Like DQ is another one of them too, that like he kind of takes him a little bit to make stuff.
Yeah.
But when he does, like shit's epic, like those, as well as yourself, like, and you understand that, and that's why you're doing this now too. It's like, so you're supporting those people and those creatives and the Hormesis and the Olivers and the Alexes, so that they don't have to go get a 9 to 5 and then not be able to create anything for you anymore. And I think that it's hard to convey that,
Yeah, totally. So I want to unpack a few things there. You were talking about how you want Tigerwear to like be something, maybe loud is not the right word, but like that's the first thing that came to mind, where like I was look at this shirt, like it's crazy loud, right? And like Hormesis is, they're always in your face with advertising, and which is great. They're putting their brand out there. But what I love about Tigerwear is it represents you and Mouse, and you're both like kind of in the shadows, right? And like when you see Tigerwear, you're like, oh, like what's that? Like it creates that mystique that like, okay, I see something there. I want to learn more about it. In it, I kind of see that in both of your personalities, where like it really comes out with that stuff. In some of the pieces that you're putting out, where like, you've got like the picture on the back, like, oh, okay, like that tells the story. Like I can feel that, I resonate with that. And then I just watched a podcast with Jack Conte. He's the CEO of Patreon, and it was a beautiful title. The title of the podcast was "The Death of the Subscriber," and he talks about like the next few years of creators. It's not going to be about your number of subscribers or followers. It's about the community that you have, because like as AI keeps going out, and it's AI is going to create our own content and have potentially versions of us, people are going to crave real communities. So like maybe it's a Tigerwear community where like you've got to pay to be a part of this exclusive access, and when you're in there you get to associate and interact with you guys. But like that's the future, is what it sounds like, is these like small pockets of communities for creators. So it's gonna be crazy to see like where we go with it. So going through the Tigerwear journey and starting that company, what have you learned about yourself? Like, did you, when you first started, were you like, yes, everyone's going to buy this? Or did you struggle with, I guess, imposter syndrome in a way of like, man, are people really going to like this?
I think I thought, and I still do believe this in a way, and I like what we're trying to do with Tigerwear is in paintball. I don't think it's something that it's not like, we're not doing something that's like that will maximize our sales. Like we started this, and still what we're doing is like bringing in something new, like almost like a luxury, like a little bit out there type style and vibe of quality, and like I guess that's not just like turn and burn style of like we want everyone to have it. It's more, it's like a complete like exclusive things. Like there's a lot of stuff that we make that I don't even put on the website, and then people will see through pictures or something. Like when you put on the website, and I was like, I know I should, but I'm also doing the shipping, the website design, the accounting, the manufacturing, the social media, all this stuff. And so for me to take photos and edit and put up the product descriptions for something that we only have 3 sizes left doesn't make sense, you know?
Yeah.
And I like, we're still like, even though it's been a long process, which is like a great reflection even on just my own personality, like takes me a while to do things and get things done. But I know it's like it is going to be great, and like as we scale and we get more, get a bigger team and bring more people on, and have like more financial assets, it becomes a little bit easier to make stuff in surplus. But I think that like the biggest thing that I learned, and I'm still learning, is to not be such a perfectionist. That's in like, I want more help so that I can have more time to be a perfectionist. Like I need help with like the shipping. Like I have these all that I need to get filled, and I have like, you know, I'm making these tags like myself. It's like, but so that stuff takes away from, you know, my own creative search and learning to bring like, so what I've learned is to like be okay also too with asking for help.
Yeah.
Like, cause I want to do everything myself, and I don't really like to ask for help. I'm like, if you end up like, for me, it's like, I need someone to ask for my help like 4 or 5 times to be like, okay, this person's actually be genuine. Cause I don't want to feel like I take your help and I owe you something, you know?
Yeah. You don't want that quid pro quo thing back. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's like one thing that I've learned. And another big part of where like, you know, Mouse has helped me too is like is discipline. And, you know, just growing up with just me and my mom kind of just like let me do honestly whatever I want. Like I was a bad kid. I was getting suspended from school. I couldn't stay in my seat. Like, so I'm like, for me, like it's weird. It's like, I would be scared for myself if I was rich, you know, like
Sure.
I would be just running rampant. And what's funny is like, I look at all these things and I understand that on so many like multi-facets and layers that like, is that a limited belief? Like, do I halter myself and not do the things that I know what I need to do in order to take things to the next level because I'm worried about if I get to that level of like what I'm going to do? You know, it's like, so what I'm learning to like not do that. I think that part of it is like a slow burn of like maturity, of where I'm like trying to break patterns of you know, of wanting to like enjoy life too much. And then you know, like when I'm thinking about like, all right, what did I what are like the biggest achievements for me? Like, all right, working and committing to becoming a pro paintball player and everything I've done up until this point to get to all these points. What do I most like about the Spick Span Show? how like our level of commitment to doing it. Like not so much about like the individual content, but like we're doing it every fucking week.
You show up, yeah.
That's more so like that resonates. But in the moment, like day to day, I don't think about that at all. You know, I want to go like in hindsight, if Ryan was like, "Hey, let's not do the show today," I'm like, "Yes, I got some free time. I'm gonna like go do something else." You know?
Yeah. It's like not going to the gym, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And so I've learned it like, I think a big part is like introspection. Like I've learned to like evaluate not just like where I'm at currently, but like what really like feels good in the long run. Because yeah, something might feel good like as far as like an instant gratification aspect, but
Yeah.
you know, like do I resonate with that, you know, next week?
Yeah.
So I don't know, I guess that's kind of where I'm at with that.
No, that's great. I mean, you touched on a lot of different things there, and I think one of the things that I've taken away throughout this whole entire show with you so far, whether you know it or not, you're a perfectionist. Like you
Yeah, for
don't want to
sure.
let go of things. And now that you've stepped into like the business owner role, that's going to be even harder for you, right? Because like you just said it, like I'm doing shipping, I'm doing orders, I'm doing content creation, like you're doing all of it, and I say that because like I struggle with that too, where, you know, starting the Shellda brand now, you know, the photos, the podcast, and whatever's next. My wife wants to help out with all of it, and I'm like I don't want to let it go, you know, because like
Yeah.
it's so hard to do that. And so I see you're going through that same, I'll call it classroom that I'm going through right now too.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
hard.
even like a funny anecdote on that too is like I was landing from the airport yesterday, and I just had like I was just at practice. So I just had like sweatpants and joggers, and my girlfriend and I were going to have dinner, and I was like, "Hey, can you bring this pair of shoes and these pair of black pants for me?" And she was like, "Anything else? Like, are you sure?" And I was like, "No." But the pair of pants that I asked her for, I needed a belt, but I didn't know where the belt was, and I didn't want to ask her because like I didn't like think she would like want to go and look for it or like go to try to find it. And then when she picked me up from the airport, she had my pants and she had the belt, and
Cool.
I was like, this is the shit that I love, you know. Like she's like, yeah, I knew you needed a belt. I had to go look for it, and I was like, like this that those little like things are like so cool to me when people do stuff like that. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like you're on the same wavelength, and like you pick each other up of things that you're missing essentially.
yeah. Because like I could have
Yeah.
told her that I need that, but
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of a long explanation, and like I don't really like want you to have to do that. So like for you
Yeah.
to do it like on your own is like it is a really cool aspect, you know.
Yeah. I love that. I've got a few more for you.
Yeah,
We've talked about it at the beginning of the show, and you know all the things that you've done so far, and you're still early on in your career. Like you still have so much ahead. Let's look 40, 50 years out from now. And if you look back, you know, you're sitting on the porch with Mouse one day, maybe drinking a beer, and like you're reflecting, what do you want your legacy to be? Like, what do you want people to remember you from?
it's interesting because I think this like I've spent a lot of time in like the last 3 years of like what's my passion, what do I want to do, and I think in a way like I want to be like not necessarily like I do want to like I want to help people, but more so of a stance that like I just want to be able to like fine tune what I learn so that I can give people something that helps them quickly like unlock something that helps them just go get whatever like they want in a sense like mainly just wisdom. You know, like we consume so many things to learn, but it's like you really, really, really have to value what you're consuming in order to implement it. You know,
Yeah.
and for for me, more than like any amount of money, like even Tigerwear is a good example of this. Like obviously, if we could just be dominating and making a lot of money, that would make my life easier. But like, I also don't want to dilute it, and I don't want to, um, just it's not a cash grab. Like we sell expensive stuff because it's worth it, and I put a lot of time into it, and it's that price for a reason. And you'll have something special that not a lot of people have.
Yeah.
The same way as like if I can talk to you on a deeper level and resonate with you and share stuff, I'm probably going to be able to leave a long-standing effect, not for you to like be like, dang, that guy Kyle, he's a really good person, but you go, damn, I have been like looking at things in a perspective that doesn't suit myself. Not that they're wrong, but like
Yeah.
I wasn't like utilizing my perception or perspective on life. And I want to like be able to, in 50, 60 years from now, I want to be able to like give a mass amount of people an understanding that like you have the freedom to perceive things for yourself. Like we're all, I think that a large majority of people are, living because they're shown and kind of conditioned that that's what you're supposed to do to be happy by somebody else's recipe. And every single person is different, and it's hard for people to break through that. Like, and you have to do both, right? Like we all have to play this game of our like actual reality and your actual like day-to-day work and your bosses that might think of something. Like you have to do that, but it doesn't mean that that's you to its entirety. And so um like, and I'm thankful for, like, I didn't have like a great childhood and upbringing, and so I think I was fortunate enough to um like analyze everything and feel, and my intuition, I think, is like my superpower, and like
Yeah. I see
understand
that.
social situations and like feel people, like um you know uh so even though like I'm like, damn, yeah, I wish I like all my friends' parents lived in the cool neighborhoods where all like the good, like the cool people lived and had nice houses and all this stuff,
Yeah.
but it allowed me to have a perspective, like, I guess, yeah, of humbleness, like that you can be your own person while like um abiding, not abiding, but like living within social norms, but like not
Yeah.
letting it completely consume you and take over your entire being, living for, you know, someone else in a sense.
Yeah. It makes total sense. You want every interaction that somebody has with you to, when they walk away from you, to essentially better their life. Like you want them to be
Yeah.
able to reflect and like, wow, that I need to go like do some soul searching or like think about that and look at something completely different. I've got a marketing mind. Like I kind of think like Ryan a little bit. And as you're
Yeah.
thinking that, I'm like, oh, that'd be a cool like Tigerwear line, like the reflections or like reflection line or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
And it's
you can
interesting
have
too,
that
like,
one.
yeah, yeah. No, I do like that when you said that. I'm like, oh, that's good. And as you were saying that earlier too, like I know, like a lot of our clothes, like we do like minimal designs,
Yeah.
but we put a lot of like this new hoodie we did. It is expensive. It's $135, but like in for me, like knowing clothing, fashion, like this hoodie that we just released should be price at 300, but I know
Yeah.
that that's completely ridiculous. But it is a good reflection, kind of in like what you brought up of, you know, kind of, you know, who Mouse and I are. Is it like there's a lot, and if you watch, you know, the Spick Span Show, I don't really completely share a ton.
Yeah.
We keep it simplistic, but like
Yeah.
the quality is actually, you know, in you know, a metaphor of like my personality. Like I face value, if you just meet me, like you're probably not going to like fully get everything, but it's actually built in, you know.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, you know, the thing I've loved about Tigerwear and like learning about it is there's mystique to it because it's simple. You don't hear a lot about it. And there's mystique to you and Mouse, right? Because like there's those extra layers as you get to know you guys. And then once you get to know you and Mouse as just humans, like there's just another level of appreciation. And it's the same thing with Tigerwear clothing, right? When you get that, you're like, holy shit, this is like super nice quality. And the thing that I love is I go through the same thing with my brand too, is I won't put something on my website or sell something if I wouldn't truly wear it myself. Like I need to be comfortable wearing it if I'm going to give it to somebody else and let somebody else wear it. And I see that with you guys.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got one more question for you. And this is it's one of my favorite parts of the show is I always end my shows with I have my previous guest ask a question for the next guest, and they don't know who the next guest says at the time if they're asking it. So it's like a cool way to connect people without even knowing it, you know? And this is going to be a great question because it's like it tied in perfectly. So you look up, you know, obviously to Oliver and spend a lot of time with Maddie. Maddie asked the question for you without knowing you were going to be answering it. If you could take any historical figure to play paintball, who would it be and why?
Ooh. Any historical figure? I was thinking that that was going to be the for the 50 to 60 years from now. So I was like a little bit. All right. Maddie, the history buff. And should we like not pick an athlete?
It can be anyone that you know as part of history. You know, I think some people will hear that question and they'll take it like maybe they think of a president. When I first heard him say it, I went right to like, you know, technology. So like the different tech CEOs, athletes are going to think of like the great athlete. Like I'm sure if I asked Marcelo, you know, he would probably go with right to like Kobe or somebody of that he's like there. So I think people would take that question many different routes.
I think I have like two answers, but I'll keep it to one just to like
Sure.
make it easier for myself and for but I would probably, because I look at myself like this, and I don't know if it was necessarily like I'm gonna kind of like alter the question a little bit, but like
Sure.
I would probably pick because I resonate with this myself, like one of the great philosophers, like Aristotle or like Plato or Socrates.
Oh, cool.
From a standpoint that like I think that those are they're like stepping stools for innovation, you know, like maybe not necessarily like they're the best player to an extent, but they are going to change the game, you know, or like change strategy or bring something. And yeah, like to be honest, like I'm on that, and I that's a whole another conversation. But like, and I probably won't share this till I retire. But like all the ideas, like in depth strategy ideas that I have, I share them with my team. But like on the way to play the game, the way to innovate the game, and doing different things, I think that you have to be okay with doing something completely unorthodox in order to like create the next the next level or deviation. And I don't know, like, I mean, when I think back, and Oliver deserves the credit, but I don't want to. I hate to keep referring back to him, give him too much credit and pump his ego too much, or like I think Oliver, like, besides like way like 20 years ago, people that like innovated, like Oliver was that person for us. And
For sure.
To me, obviously it was a plus that he was good also in the game, but like what he left as far as I think his reputation and what message he was expressing has more of a long-standing effect on paintball than his playing style.
Yeah.
And that's fucking cool,
Yeah, that's so I'm glad you answered it that way, because like I can see how you resonate with that person of like, maybe they're not the top, they're not the bottom, but like what they do is there's impact behind it and it's meaningful and there's purpose to it. And that makes total sense with who you are as like a core of your person. Man, I'm losing my voice. The core of who you are as a person. And that's the cool part with Oliver too, is I asked him that question. I was like, hey, what is your legacy? And he doesn't want anything to do with paintball. Like he wants people to remember like just what he's given in terms of hormesis and given to how that'll change people's lives, the whole entire experience. He's like, yeah, the paintball stuff's great. He's like, but I'm moving on to other things. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because he called me the other day. I'm not going to share this idea because I don't want anyone else to steal it, but he called me and he told me after I did the podcast with Maddie the other day, and he told me to do an idea. And it was cool because he's like, I don't trust anyone else with this idea but you. And when you do it, everyone else is going to follow and do the same idea.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's a great idea. So like it's kind of surreal to like, that is like most people's Michael Jordan. And like now, like to have that guy as like giving me that type of insight is like, it's a beautiful thing.
You've earned that. Like, I hope you feel that, he could have chosen not to do that, but he trusted you from the relationship that you guys have. And so,
Sure.
Yeah, that's a full circle moment from you, going from like your childhood, one of your heroes, to now this guy's giving you advice because he only trusts you. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, cool, Kyle. You made it. You can take a sigh of relief. Now you get to ask the question for the next week's guest.
All right. I kind of wrote some things down, right? I guess it's a kind of like I might have to send you like a more concise version of this, but like
Sure.
I think and this kind of is a good expression of like my personality, and even why like I'm hesitant or quiet sometimes, but like, and maybe like you can put this into a better question, or like I said, I can send it to you, but like,
I got you. Rip it.
Yeah.
I got you.
When I feel like a lot of people in their present state of where they're at in their life, they hold a truth that is so absolute, but it is a truth that is like, it's not like factual, like this, is black, right?
Yeah.
If you this is not a good example. I was going to say like, if it actually is white and I'm like, I'm saying like this is black, or I'm saying this is white, but it's actually black. So what I'm saying is, if you hold a truth that your current state and then it's getting challenged. Think about like what you might be like doing to yourself currently, and then think about what you believed like 5 or 10 years before that your mind is changed about now.
Yeah.
And then think about 10 years. A better example I should use is like, did you like vegetables as a kid? No, but you probably like them now,
Yeah.
like broccoli or something.
And what unlocked in it.
Yeah. Like have that, like, do you think that you have that in you right now? I guess you can say, like, what do you feel like is a truth right now to you that will change in 10 years from now? Like,
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because when you ask someone that too, as I get, needs to be a standpoint of vulnerability, but like,
yeah,
hey, what do you hold true to yourself right now that maybe 10 years from now you're going to be like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have held so strong on that. And what's interesting about that question is you'll actually probably see them change their mind right there on the spot.
in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is like, that's cool for me. Like that fulfills me more than anything in life right now. Like and I'm kind of going off another tangent here, but like, why I like to teach, like coach paintball, and I'm still going to charge you, but I like teaching more than anything I do, like for me to coach paintball, like, yeah, I'm still going to charge you, but I would probably do it for free.
I'm
not going to, but
same thing with me on the photos.
Yeah. And all I ask is, like, I guess there's like words, advice is like, just, you can pick and choose the people you do it, but like for me, when I meet people, is like I just love like genuineness, like whatever your quirks are, like that's a reason. Like Malice and I, we're two completely different people, and he pisses me off all the time, but he is himself. He's not trying to hide anything. And then so I can like, you can begin to like work and adapt, and you can either choose to be a friend with that person or work with that person. But like I think just like everyone should in a way try to like find that vulnerability, because when you share that, then the other person becomes vulnerable with you too, and then you can actually like start to get down to like figuring out if you guys are friends or if you don't want to work with a person or whatever. Like all the masking stuff is kind of just like a waste of time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful analogy, right? Like when you take literally your mask off, you become vulnerable, and like that's when you unlock so much of your life. So yeah, it's a beautiful question. I think if I were to like sum it up, what is something that you are so stern with today that like you're like, this is the way, but 10 years from now you're like, oh, I might change that. Like you'd be open to that. Is that what you're trying to get, like asking?
That's
yeah.
like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll give you mine quick. No, I was just making sure I had your context for your question. I'll give you something for me that like stuck. I don't know why, but like it was my truth until I met my wife, and she was like, you can make a different decision. And then like it completely changed my life. So for almost all of my life in my childhood, for whatever reason, whenever I went grocery shopping with my mom, we would always put the bread and the eggs like on the top shelf of the cart, because like you don't touch it, like nothing can like crush it.
Yeah.
And it's like that was the way. Like you don't do anything else. And it's like the first time I went shopping with my wife years ago, she would put in the bottom. I'm like, what are you doing? Like it's not supposed to be down there. And she's like, well, it can. And like that unlocking of like, wait, it can be. Like it just completely opened my life. Like, well, wait, what else can I change? And it just completely changed everything.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of those. Like,
oh, totally. In every part of your life, you could find that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kyle, this has been incredible. I so appreciate you taking the time to like open up and share another side of you that I don't think a lot of your fans are going to see yet. And I think they're really going to appreciate this and connect with you more.
Cool. Of course. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
For sure. Well, to everyone else tuning in, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Shellda Podcast, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.
Yeah.